Sometimes what feels like a delay is actually divine protection in disguise. You pray, you plan, you dream, and yet nothing seems to move. The silence grows louder, the waiting stretches longer, and the heart begins to wonder times why. Asterisk. But what if that waiting isn't emptiness? What if it's preparation? Allah doesn't withhold to punish, He pauses to perfect. Every delay is a conversation between your soul and His wisdom, a test of whether you'll trust His timing more than your own desires. When Allah holds something back, it's because He sees the roads you can't, the outcomes you're not ready for, and the people who could harm what He's preparing for you. Sometimes the delay is not about the thing you want, it's about the person you're becoming while you wait. The stillness is where faith matures, where your heart learns that what's meant for you will never be lost, and what's delayed is only being shaped to arrive more beautifully than you imagined. There are seasons when Allah doesn't say no, He says not yet, and in that waiting, something sacred is built. You ask, you long, you hope, but instead of receiving, you're met with silence. Yet that silence is not empty, it's constructing something you can't see. It's shaping the heart, strengthening the soul, and teaching patience that becomes your greatest gift. Waiting is rarely comfortable, but it's almost always necessary. The delay refines what desire cannot. When you get what you want too soon, it can destroy the very peace you prayed for. But when Allah delays, He's preparing both the gift and the receiver. The wait becomes the place where dependence deepens, where you learn to love the giver more than what you've asked Him to give. In waiting, your heart begins to unravel its illusions. You start to see that you were never waiting on a thing, you were waiting to be ready. You were waiting to grow into the person who could handle what you prayed for. The wish was simple, but the transformation required to hold it was not. Allah delays not to deny you, but to develop you. Sometimes, what you ask for can't come to you until you've let go of what's holding you back. The wait becomes a purifying fire, burning away attachment, pride, and haste. Each moment of delay is like sand polishing glass. It smooths you into clarity. The wait doesn't just prepare the blessing, it prepares times to be blessed. Faith grows in the soil of uncertainty. You can't strengthen trust without seasons of silence. When Allah delays your desire, He's teaching you how to stay still without giving up, how to believe without seeing, how to keep your heart soft when life feels hard. Every moment of waiting is a test of surrender, and every test is a doorway to deeper faith. You might think that waiting is wasting time, but Allah never wastes your waiting. He uses it to teach you things you could never learn in comfort. He stretches your patience, molds your intentions, and rewires your definition of success. You realize that the wait itself is the miracle. It's what transforms your prayer into worship and your longing into love. In that sacred stillness, your perspective shifts. What once felt like delay begins to feel like design. You stop demanding answers and start asking for understanding. You start to see that waiting isn't about what's missing, it's about what's being made within you. The silence becomes a conversation, the pause becomes a promise. The wait builds qualities that wishes never could. It teaches resilience that comfort never requires. It cultivates humility, gratitude, and surrender traits that make you not just ready for the blessing, but worthy of it. Allah doesn't rush your growth, because real faith can't be fast-tracked. It's carved gently, through time, through trust, through patience. There's beauty in the unseen work Allah's doing while you wait. He's aligning hearts, rearranging circumstances, clearing paths, and protecting you from outcomes you didn't even know were harmful. You only see the delay, but He sees the full tapestry. His timing isn't slow, it's precise. Every pause has purpose woven into it. The longer you wait, the deeper your understanding becomes. You begin to realize that what you wanted wasn't always what you needed. Sometimes the wait changes the wish itself, refining it, softening it, aligning it. You stop asking for what you think is best and start asking for whatever brings you closer to Him. That's when the waiting turns into worship. When Allah delays, He's not withholding your happiness, He's protecting your peace. What you call delay is often divine editing. He's removing what could harm you, what could derail your growth, what could distract you from your purpose. His protection doesn't always look like miracles. Sometimes it looks like waiting. In that sacred in-between, you learn to live without forcing. You stop trying to rush Allah's wisdom and start resting in it. The need to control fades, replaced by the comfort of trust. You start to understand that what's written for you can't pass you by, and what isn't meant for you can't stay, no matter how much you wish for it. Waiting also reveals what you worship. When you're delayed, do you cling tighter to the thing or to the one who gives it? That's the question the wait asks you again and again. Every unanswered prayer becomes a mirror, reflecting where your heart truly resides. And when you finally shift your gaze from the outcome to the source, peace enters. The wish may have been beautiful, but the wait is sacred. The wish gives you hope. The wait gives you depth. You can want something deeply and still trust Allah completely. The two are not opposites, they are intertwined. The wish moves your heart, the wait molds it. One plants the seed, the other strengthens the roots. Sometimes Allah delays because He knows you'd settle for less if He gave it too soon. The wait stretches your capacity to receive more than you imagined. You begin to outgrow what once consumed you. The same thing you begged for begins to feel too small for the person you've become in the waiting. That's divine wisdom unfolding. You'll see how perfectly the delays fit into your story. Every pause led to preparation. Every unanswered prayer led to redirection. You'll realize that the wait was never about the thing itself, it was about who you became while longing for it. The delay didn't destroy your faith, it refined it into something unshakable. Waiting builds a kind of strength that no victory ever could. It teaches endurance, discipline, and quiet hope. It transforms the heart from impatience to peace, from neediness to contentment. What once felt unbearable becomes your greatest lesson in trust, that Allah's plan isn't late, it's layered with mercy. The world glorifies instant results, but the soul learns slowly. Allah delays because He loves deeply, because He knows the pace at which your heart heals, grows, and learns. The wait becomes an act of love, not just His for you, but yours for Him, as you stay patient, believing even when it hurts. And when the time finally comes, it will all make sense. The delay will no longer feel like loss, but like protection. You'll see how every unanswered prayer was an answered one in disguise. You'll realize that what the wish couldn't build, the patience, the depth, the trust, the wait did. So, if you're waiting, don't despair. This is not a pause in your story, it's the most important chapter. Because while you're waiting for what you want, Allah is building what you need. And when the wish finally arrives, you'll understand the wait didn't just prepare you for the blessing, it made you become it. There are moments in life when waiting feels like a punishment. You pray with sincerity, you plan with hope, and yet everything seems to move slower than your heart desires. But what if the delay isn't rejection? What if it's protection? Sometimes Allah's mercy doesn't come as immediate answers, but as sacred pauses. Because in those pauses, He shields you from outcomes you're not ready for and redirects you towards something purer than what you asked for. Delay is one of Allah's gentlest forms of love. It's His way of saying, I hear you, but I love you too much to give this to you right now. The world may call it disappointment, but faith recognizes it as care. The delay isn't empty time, it's divine timing. It's the preparation that turns your prayers into wisdom and your patience into strength. You see, if Allah gave you everything the moment you asked, you would never learn the beauty of trust. You would never discover the strength that's born in stillness, or the peace that blooms from surrender. The delay trains your heart to depend not on the outcome, but on the one who controls it. And in that dependency lies the deepest kind of love, one that is quiet, patient, and pure. When Allah delays, He's not withholding joy, He's extending mercy. Because sometimes what you desire would harm you if it arrived too soon. He protects your heart from breaking in ways you can't foresee. His delay is a shield, invisible but strong, holding back pain you would have mistaken for blessing. Only later, when clarity comes, do you realize how every not yet was a form of protection. Mercy doesn't always look like comfort. Often it looks like delay. It looks like unanswered prayers, postponed plans, or the silence that stretches between dua and response. But inside that silence, Allah is at work, rearranging, refining, preparing. His mercy often hides behind timing you don't understand, but when the curtain lifts, you'll see that He was never distant. He was designing your peace. There is a tenderness in delay that few recognize. Allah could grant instantly, but He withholds gently because He wants your heart to grow with the waiting. He wants you to come closer, to keep calling, to keep trusting. The delay becomes the thread that weaves you to Him. Each prayer whispered through tears is another stitch in your bond with the divine. Patience isn't passive, it's powerful. It's your quiet declaration that you trust Allah more than your own urgency. The longer the wait, the deeper the roots of faith grow. It's in delay that certainty matures, when your logic can't find reasons, but your heart still whispers asterisk, He knows, asterisk. That whisper alone is proof that mercy is already working within you. When Allah delays, He's not testing your worth. He's strengthening your foundation. He's teaching you that faith isn't built in answered prayers, but in unanswered ones. Anyone can believe when blessings flow easily, but the heart that remains steady in waiting, that's the heart He elevates. Delay becomes the soil where steadfastness is planted and trust blossoms. Sometimes mercy comes disguised as time. What you thought was a detour becomes the direct route to what's best. Allah uses delay to shape the path, soften your heart, and shift your vision. The moment you stop fighting the timing, you start seeing the beauty in it. You start realizing that delay isn't loss, it's alignment with divine perfection. The Prophet, peace be upon him, once reminded us that what is written for you will never miss you. That truth transforms the sting of waiting into serenity. You start to understand that what feels delayed is right on schedule in the sight of Allah. And once your heart truly accepts that, the frustration begins to dissolve into quiet trust. Delay humbles you. It reminds you that you are not the author, you are the traveler. Your plans may be beautiful, but Allah's plan is complete. Delay becomes a lesson in letting go of control and embracing submission. The soul that learns to release its timeline finds rest in knowing that Allah's timing is flawless, even when it feels unfamiliar. When your dua lingers unanswered, that's not silence, it's sacred processing. Every moment of waiting is a hidden conversation between your soul and your sustainer. He's softening what's rigid, healing what's hidden, and preparing what's coming. Mercy is not always fast, but it's always full. You are being written into a story where every delay has divine precision. There's a sweetness that only delayed blessings carry. It's the sweetness of finally understanding why you had to wait. When the gift finally arrives, you hold it differently, with gratitude, with humility, with perspective. The waiting refines the receiver, not just the reward. That's the secret of divine mercy. It blesses twice, once in patience and once in fulfillment. The delay also exposes what's inside the heart. When things don't go as planned, you see where your faith stands. Do you crumble in frustration, or do you rest in remembrance? Allah delays to reveal not your weakness, but your capacity to grow. Every pause becomes an invitation to deepen your reliance on Him and release your attachment to everything else. When mercy delays, it's never absent. Even in heartbreak, even in uncertainty, Allah's kindness surrounds you. You may not see it now, but one day you'll look back and realize that the unanswered prayers were the ones that saved you. The doors that stayed closed kept you from stepping into storms. What felt like waiting was really being carried. Delay is mercy in disguise because it protects your destiny. If Allah rushed your plans, you'd settle for less than what He wrote for you. His delay is a shield against mediocrity, a pause so you can grow into the version of yourself that can hold the magnitude of His blessings. What you see as withholding is actually the refining of your capacity to receive. When Allah withholds, He gives in other ways: peace in your heart, strength in your patience, wisdom in your silence. Every delay carries hidden blessings that are not visible to the impatient eye. You realize that the more you surrender, the lighter you become. You stop measuring your worth by what arrives and start valuing what waiting awakens inside you. Divine mercy is not limited to ease. It's present in every delay, every unanswered prayer, every redirection that kept you safe. The heart that learns to see mercy in delay is the heart that never despairs. Because even when nothing seems to move, faith whispers, He's still working just beyond what I can see. When the waiting ends, You'll understand why it took so long. You'll see how perfectly it all aligned, how every moment of delay was a layer of protection, how every season of stillness was a lesson in trust. You'll thank Allah not just for what came, but for when it came. Because mercy was never missing, it was simply unfolding in divine time. So the next time life feels slow, remember, delay is not denial, it's divine mercy in motion. A mercy that stretches your patience, strengthens your faith, and shields your soul. The one who trusts in that mercy never loses, because they understand that sometimes Allah's greatest gift isn't the blessing itself, it's the weight that made them ready to receive it. There are moments when your prayers rise higher than your words, and yet the heavens remain still. You keep asking, believing, pleading, and silence answers back. That silence can feel like distance, but it isn't. It's divine protection dressed in quiet. What you call unanswered, Allah calls unseen mercy. What you think is being withheld is in truth being replaced with something greater, something eternal. Unanswered prayers aren't a sign that Allah isn't listening. They're proof that He's guarding you from what your heart can't yet comprehend. The same prayer that breaks you in longing might be the one that saves you from harm. Every unfulfilled request is wrapped in wisdom, even when it feels like rejection. Allah's silence isn't neglect, it's nurture. When Allah doesn't give you what you ask for, it's because He loves you too much to give you less than what's best. You see the surface, He sees the unseen. He knows the weight behind every wish, the consequence behind every yes. Sometimes unanswered prayers are like doors that won't open, not because He's denying you entry, but because He's guiding you toward the one that leads to peace. There's a sacred safety in unanswered prayers. They protect you from the things that sparkle with false promise. They shield you from heartbreak disguised as happiness, from ease that would make you forget Him, from success that would corrupt your soul. When Allah doesn't give, He is still giving, only in ways that preserve what truly matters: your faith, your heart, your hereafter. You may think your silence means He's far, but silence is often where He speaks the loudest. He uses it to draw you closer, to stretch your patience, to deepen your trust, to teach you that His care is not limited to your understanding. The unanswered prayer becomes a classroom where surrender is learned, where love becomes unconditional. Sometimes the thing you pray for with tears is the very thing Allah withholds to keep you whole. His mercy doesn't always arrive as fulfillment. Sometimes it arrives as redirection. He takes away the lesser so you can rise to the greater. You think you've lost something, but in reality, you've been spared. You haven't been abandoned, you've been protected. The protection behind unanswered prayers is often invisible at first. It hides beneath pain, beneath confusion, beneath the ache of longing. But time reveals what faith already knows, that Allah never withholds without reason. Every no you face now may echo as a thank you later. The very silence that frustrates you today will one day become your story of divine wisdom. When your prayer feels unheard, remember, it is never wasted. Each word is counted. Each tear is seen. Sometimes the answer isn't yes or no, but not yet. Allah delays because He wants the blessing to meet you when your heart is strong enough to carry it. The silence is not punishment, it's preparation. Unanswered prayers also cleanse your heart from dependency on outcomes. You stop seeing Allah as a wish granter and start recognizing Him as your sustainer. You begin to love Him for who He is, not just for what He gives. That shift from desire to devotion is the most beautiful form of protection of all. If every prayer were answered instantly, faith would be shallow. Gratitude would fade quickly. But in waiting, love deepens. You begin to pray not for things, but for closeness. You start asking not for change around you, but for change within you. The unanswered prayer becomes the bridge between your impatience and your peace. Unanswered prayers are not empty, they are full of purpose. Allah uses them to detach you from temporary attachments and reattach you to Him. You may think you're losing time, but you're actually gaining depth. You may feel like you're waiting for something to come, but in reality, something within you is awakening. There's protection in every not yet. Allah may withhold because He knows that if you received it now, it would harm you. He may delay because the moment you're asking for doesn't yet align with His perfect design. His mercy doesn't always feel gentle, but it's always just. Sometimes the hand that closes a door is the same one that saves you from walking into fire. In silence, Allah is still speaking, not through words, but through outcomes, through feelings, through signs. The unanswered prayer often redirects your attention to what truly deserves it, your relationship with Him. When you shift your focus from what's missing to who is present, peace takes root. You begin to realize that being heard is not the same as being answered. Every time you pray and don't receive, something inside you still grows. You become softer, humbler, stronger. You begin to understand that your relationship with Allah is not transactional, it's transformational. What you wanted may have been beautiful, but what you became in pursuit of it is far greater. Sometimes Allah protects you from yourself, from desires that would have derailed your purpose, from people who would have dimmed your light, from paths that looked smooth but led to loss. You may never know what harm was turned away from you, but every unanswered prayer carries that invisible mercy. The silence you resent might be the shield that saved your soul. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said that no prayer goes unanswered. It is either fulfilled, delayed for a better time, or stored as reward in the hereafter. Every word you whisper into the night is recorded, valued, and returned in divine form. Nothing is lost. What you call silence, the angels call remembrance. Sometimes the greatest mercy is in what never arrives, because what doesn't come allows space for what's meant to. What isn't given teaches detachment, humility, patience. You stop holding on so tightly and start learning how to release. The unanswered prayer becomes the art of letting go with grace. In time, you'll look back and realize that every unanswered prayer led you exactly where you needed to be. Every delay protected you. Every no guided you. Every silence deepened you. The blessings you now hold were made possible only by the prayers that went unanswered. Allah's plan was never late, it was layered with love. So, the next time your prayer echoes into silence, don't mistake it for absence. Sit in it, trust it. Because sometimes Allah's greatest protection isn't in what He gives, but in what He withholds. His silence is not the end of your prayer, it's the continuation of His mercy. And when the time is right, you'll see it, the quiet shield that was guarding you all along. Between every prayer and its answer lies a sacred space, the space of patience. It's the quiet middle ground where faith is tested and hearts are refined. You've asked, you've hoped, and now you wait. That waiting isn't wasted time, it's holy time. It's where Allah teaches you to trust His wisdom more than your desire, His timing more than your plan. Patience isn't just about waiting, it's about how times you wait. It's the difference between restless silence and peaceful surrender. True patience doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you feel everything and still choose trust. It's the gentle whisper of your heart saying, even if it takes time, I know my Lord never forgets. Every delay between asking and receiving is a lesson in surrender. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said that Allah answers every dua in its time, in its way, or in the hereafter. That means your patience is never ignored. It's recorded, rewarded, and woven into the divine story that's still unfolding. Patience builds the kind of faith that comfort never could. When life feels uncertain and you continue to believe, that's where your heart strengthens. Allah uses waiting to purify your intention, to strip away ego, fear, and desperation until all that remains is sincerity. Patience transforms your dua from demand into devotion. In patience, there's a kind of peace that doesn't come from getting what you want, but from knowing who you're waiting on. When you anchor your hope in Allah, you stop measuring His love by how quickly He answers. You begin to trust that the space between asking and receiving is where you are being shaped into the person ready to receive. The bridge of patience is built with tears, prayer, and trust. Every time your heart aches and you choose faith over frustration, another stone is laid. The journey across that bridge isn't easy, but it's sacred. On the other side isn't just the blessing you prayed for, it's the transformation you didn't know you needed. Patience doesn't mean inaction. It means graceful endurance. You still work, you still strive, but without forcing outcomes. You do your part and leave the rest in Allah's hands. That surrender is power, the kind that frees your soul from anxiety and aligns it with divine peace. Sometimes the waiting feels endless. You watch others receive what you're praying for, and your heart wonders if Allah has overlooked you. But patience reminds you that your story is not theirs. What's written for you moves at its own sacred pace. The delay isn't a sign of rejection, it's a sign of precision. Allah withholds not because He's distant, but because He's designing. Every moment of patience refines you, softening your edges, strengthening your resolve, and teaching you gratitude before the gift even arrives. You start to realize that patience itself is a blessing, not just the bridge to one. In this world, we are taught to chase immediacy, but faith asks for endurance. The believer learns that everything beautiful takes time, even prayers. Allah could answer instantly, but He lets the wait water your faith. Because the dua that takes time to be answered also takes time to deepen your relationship with Him. Patience reveals what words can't, that the journey itself holds meaning. You begin to see how the longing purifies your love for Allah, how the unanswered moments draw you closer to Him. Sometimes the wait gives you what the answer never could: perspective, wisdom, compassion. These are the hidden treasures of patience. When your heart starts to grow tired, remember that even the Prophet Job, Ayyub, peace be upon him, endured years of hardship with grace. His story teaches that patience isn't pretending everything is fine, it's holding on to faith even when everything hurts. Allah never forgets the one who waits with hope. Patience is a quiet act of worship. It doesn't always look grand or public, but it echoes loudly in the unseen. Every sigh you release, every tear you hide, every time you choose gratitude instead of complaint, all of it is written. And when Allah writes patience into your story, He writes honor next to your name. The bridge of patience is long, but it's not empty. Along the way, you meet moments of clarity, reminders that Allah's timing is never off, that what's meant for you can never miss you. Patience turns uncertainty into peace, teaching you that every not yet is really a trust me. Through patience, you begin to see that life isn't about getting everything you ask for, but becoming grateful for everything you have. You stop rushing the process and start respecting the pace of divine wisdom. You begin to love the journey, even before reaching the destination. The more patient you become, the lighter your soul feels. You stop fearing the unknown and start finding comfort in surrender. You realize that peace isn't the absence of waiting, it's the presence of trust within it. Patience becomes your shield, your guide, your silent prayer. The space between asking and receiving is sacred ground. It's where hearts are tested, faith is refined, and souls grow stronger. That's where miracles are born, not when the dua is answered, but when the believer stays steadfast in hope. When the answer finally arrives, and it will, you'll understand why you had to wait. You'll see that Allah didn't delay to hurt you, He delayed to heal you. You'll look back at your waiting season with gratitude, realizing it wasn't a pause, it was a path. So be patient with your prayers, your journey, and yourself. Patience isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the bridge that connects longing to fulfillment, effort to ease, asking to receiving. And on that bridge, you'll find not just your answer, but the peace that only Allah can give. There are moments when life feels like it's standing still, when every door you knock on stays closed, and every prayer you whisper seems to echo in silence. You start to wonder if Allah has forgotten you. But what you see as being held back is often the very moment He's positioning you for something greater. The pause isn't punishment, it's preparation. You're not being delayed, you're being elevated. When Allah holds you back, it's because your wings are still being formed. You can't soar until your faith grows strong enough to bear the wind. What feels like restriction is actually divine refinement. He's building the endurance you'll need when He lifts you higher. Because elevation without foundation collapses, and He loves you too much to let that happen. There's a hidden mercy in being slowed down. Allah knows that rushing into blessings can ruin them, so He holds you still to strengthen your patience, sharpen your clarity, and purify your intention. The place you're standing in may look like a delay, but in reality, it's the ground where trust is planted. When you feel stuck, it's easy to mistake it for being forgotten. But sometimes Allah's wait is louder than His yes. He's not ignoring you, He's preparing you. The silence between your efforts and His response is where spiritual growth happens. It's where your ego quiets. your dependence deepens, and your heart begins to beat in rhythm with surrender. The believer learns that not moving is also a form of movement, inward movement. Allah holds you in place so your faith can catch up to your desires. Before He changes your circumstances, He changes your heart. Before He opens a door, He strengthens your soul to walk through it without losing yourself. Sometimes Allah holds you back from people, opportunities, or places you thought were meant for you, not because you're unworthy, but because He's protecting your worth. He knows what you can't see, the conversations you weren't meant to hear, the betrayals that would have broken you. His no is not rejection, it's redirection toward what will raise you. Growth doesn't always look like forward motion. Sometimes it looks like stillness, like the quiet before dawn, like the soil that must rest before it blooms again. You are not stuck, you are being replanted. Allah holds you back to deepen your roots, so that when you rise again, nothing can shake you. When you surrender to His delay, you begin to see that elevation doesn't come from striving harder, it comes from trusting deeper. The greatest transformations happen when you stop forcing and start flowing with His timing. You stop chasing what's not moving and start focusing on what's growing within you. Being held back is often how Allah removes what would have limited you. He takes away your comfort to stretch your capacity. He closes doors to force you to knock on His. Every setback you face in faith is secretly a setup for something beyond your imagination. His detours are always deliberate. Patience during divine delay is not weakness, it's strength disguised as calm. It's choosing to believe that Allah's silence is filled with purpose, even when your heart aches for movement. Every time you choose trust over frustration, you are climbing higher, not in the world's eyes, but in His. There's wisdom in the stillness that waiting brings. It's where you learn to differentiate between your timing and His. You realize that what you wanted right away might have destroyed you right away. What He holds back, He does so gently until the timing aligns not just with your life, but with your readiness. When Allah holds you back, He's not holding you down. He's aligning you with a different rhythm, one that matches His mercy. Every delay carries a message. Stay close, stay patient, stay faithful. Because when the moment finally comes, it will arrive with ease, grace, and clarity that only divine timing can bring. Sometimes, the hold is there to heal. You may think you're ready to move on, but Allah sees the wounds you've hidden beneath your strength. He slows your path not to test you, but to treat you. You are being rebuilt, and healing always takes time. You can't rush what's meant to be whole. The hold also humbles you. It reminds you that movement without meaning leads to emptiness. You stop striving for control and start learning to be content with the process. You start realizing that the strength of a believer is not in how fast they move, but in how firmly they trust when standing still. Every season of being held back has purpose. Allah uses it to test your gratitude, refine your patience, and build your character. The silence becomes your teacher. The pause becomes your prayer. In that sacred stillness, your heart learns how to say asterisk, I trust you, asterisk with deeper conviction. You begin to see that divine delay is actually divine discipline, the loving kind that molds you into someone who can handle what's coming next. You stop asking asterisk, why me? Asterisk, and start asking asterisk, what is this teaching me? Asterisk, that shift is what turns waiting into worship. When the time is right, you'll move again, but differently. You'll walk lighter, with clearer vision and a calmer heart. You'll realize that Allah wasn't holding you back to punish you. He was holding you up until you were strong enough to stand taller. Every moment of delay was preparation for elevation. The Prophet, peace be upon him, once reminded that what is written for you will never miss you. That truth becomes your anchor in the waiting. You begin to rest, knowing that Allah doesn't just move you when you're ready, He moves you when the world around you is ready to receive you too. And when He finally unfolds the path before you, you'll understand that what felt like being held back was actually being lifted, slowly, silently, mercifully. The mountain you once thought blocked your view becomes the place you now stand upon. You were never being delayed, you were being prepared to rise. So when life feels still, don't fight it. Be patient, be present, because sometimes Allah holds you back not to keep you from flying, but to make sure that when you do, you never fall. Sometimes what feels like a delay is actually a doorway, a sacred unfolding that happens in perfect rhythm, just not yours. You ask, you hope, you wait. And while you wait, Allah rearranges the pieces of your life in ways you cannot see. The blessing you think is late is actually arriving on the only timeline that will protect your peace and strengthen your heart. His timing is never off, only perfectly aligned with a wisdom you can't yet understand. Divine timing is not slow, it's strategic. Every pause has purpose. Allah delays to prepare the moment and the soul that will receive it. If the gift arrived before you were ready, it would overwhelm you. But in waiting, you're stretched, purified, refined. What you learn during the delay becomes part of the blessing itself. It's not lost time, it's sacred formation. We live in a world obsessed with immediacy. But Allah is not rushed by your clocks or calendars. He operates in eternity, where every second carries divine precision. What feels like waiting to you is actually alignment in progress. Hearts aligning, paths clearing, lessons unfolding. You are being timed not for convenience, but for completeness. The blessing you seek has its own schedule, written long before you existed. You can't summon it sooner, nor can anyone take it away. When Allah withholds, it's not absence, it's orchestration. He is synchronizing the seen and the unseen, moving hearts and circumstances in a dance that only divine wisdom could choreograph. Sometimes you need the delay to unlearn what was never meant for you. Allah slows the blessing so that when it comes, it doesn't compete with your distractions. He pauses your plans to protect your focus. The waiting season becomes your training ground, where your faith is stretched enough to hold the weight of what's coming next. There's beauty in being delayed for the right reasons. You learn to surrender your timeline and trust the one who sees every outcome. The heart that learns to rest in divine timing becomes unshakable. It no longer measures success by speed, but by serenity. You stop asking when and start whispering whenever you will, Ya Allah. Divine timing often hides blessings in disguise. What feels like a closed door now may be the very thing saving you from heartache. Allah doesn't just give what you want, He gives it when it won't harm you. The delay becomes a veil of mercy, guarding you from unseen consequences and guiding you towards something far greater than your original wish. In hindsight, you'll see how every delay was a thread in a bigger design. What seemed disconnected was actually perfectly woven. Every pause held protection, every detour carried direction. The timing wasn't random, it was revelation, unfolding slowly, softly, in divine rhythm. When you trust divine timing, you begin to live differently. You stop comparing your path to others. You stop rushing toward milestones that were never yours to chase. You begin to understand that Allah's pace is perfection, never early, never late, always exactly on time. The heart that trusts divine timing knows how to rest even while waiting. It finds beauty in patience and strength in surrender. Every unanswered prayer becomes an opportunity to deepen reliance. Every delay becomes proof of care. You begin to see that divine timing is not about waiting for something to happen, it's about becoming who you need to be when it does. Sometimes Allah slows you down, because what's ahead is greater than what you can handle now. He delays not because you lack, but because He's preparing you for abundance. The hold is not punishment, it's expansion. You are being stretched to fit the magnitude of what He's about to give you. Divine timing humbles the heart. It reminds you that you're not in control, and that's a relief. You no longer have to force outcomes, chase answers, or manipulate paths. You begin to trust that the same one who created time will manage it perfectly for your soul. Every delay becomes a quiet reminder of His authority and your safety. Even the waiting carries hidden gifts. In the stillness, you gain clarity. In the pause, you gain strength. In the longing, you gain depth. The delay becomes a mirror that shows you who you are without the blessing and who you need to become before it arrives. That reflection alone is one of the greatest mercies. When the blessing finally comes, you realize it was never late. You were simply being ripened like fruit that must remain on the branch until it's sweet enough to nourish. If it came too soon, it would spoil. But because you waited, it arrives in perfect condition, bringing with it peace that feels familiar, the peace of divine timing. There is calm in knowing that your story is unfolding exactly as it's meant to. The moments you thought were detours were directions. The delays were not denials but divine pauses written to protect you. Allah's timing is a language, and every silence, every shift, every stillness is Him saying, trust me. The longer you live, the more you recognize how perfectly Allah writes your story. The people who left did so right on time. The opportunities that faded did so with purpose. The blessings that stayed did so by decree. Everything is timed, not by chance, but by care. And when you see that, gratitude replaces impatience. When you align with divine timing, your heart softens. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop forcing and start flowing. You realize that your only job is faith, to keep showing up, to keep trusting, to keep believing. Allah's plan doesn't need your panic, it needs your patience. One of the greatest signs of maturity in faith is learning to see delay as kindness. You stop saying, why me? And start saying, thank you for protecting me. You realize that being slowed down was the only way to be saved. That's when patience transforms into gratitude, a peace that waiting can no longer disturb. And when you finally arrive at what you once prayed for, you'll look back and smile. You'll understand that every delay, every detour, every divine pause was perfect. Allah didn't make you wait to punish you. He made you wait so that the blessing would meet a version of you who could honor it. His timing wasn't late. It was love unfolding slowly, beautifully, and exactly when your heart was ready to receive it. There will come a day when you look back and realize that every unanswered prayer, every delay, and every closed door was not punishment, but protection. In the moment, it hurt. It felt like silence, like stillness, like standing in the dark, waiting for dawn. But when the light finally came, you understood Allah was not withholding. He was holding you in mercy. What didn't arrive too soon came exactly when it was meant to. The hardest part of faith is trusting the unseen rhythm of divine timing. We want life to move at the speed of our desires, but Allah moves it at the speed of our readiness. You can't rush what's being perfected. Sometimes the delay is not about the thing you asked for, it's about the soul that must grow strong enough to receive it. Had everything you prayed for arrived when you wanted it, you would have settled for less than what was written for you. You would have mistaken speed for success and timing for blessing. But Allah knows the weight of what you ask for. He knows what would have crushed you had it come too early. So He delayed not to deprive you, but to prepare you. There's mercy in divine timing, even when it disguises itself as waiting. You think you're being tested, but you're actually being trained. Every moment of delay builds spiritual muscle patience, gratitude, humility. You're learning how to trust without proof, how to love without condition, and how to surrender without fear. If Allah had given you everything you wanted immediately, your heart would never learn contentment. You would chase every desire and lose the peace that comes from reliance. So He slowed you down. He let you ache so you could awaken. He let you wait so you could worship through the waiting. That's not cruelty, that's compassion. You see, Allah's timing is not random, it's relational. He gives when you're ready to handle the blessing without it becoming your distraction. What you thought was a delay was actually divine precision. Because sometimes the thing you want right away is the very thing that would pull you away from Him. There is a reason why certain doors stayed closed when you pushed. Allah saw what waited behind them, things that would have shaken your peace or dimmed your light. So He withheld them until you could see clearly. You were praying for access, but He was protecting your direction. That's how love operates. Quietly, wisely, perfectly. The wait teaches you what comfort never could. It teaches you how to walk by faith, not by sight. When you can't see the path, but you trust the planner, you develop a kind of serenity that the world cannot break. The waiting becomes your sanctuary, a place where faith breathes and hope grows stronger. Sometimes you think you're ready, and you might be, but everything around you isn't. Allah's aligning hearts, circumstances, and timing. He's setting the stage for your blessing to arrive in peace, not chaos. And that's why you'll thank him one day, not only for what came, but for when it came. There are blessings that only make sense in hindsight. You'll look back and realize that the job that didn't come through saved your purpose. The person who left made room for better love. The dream that fell apart built resilience that success never could. What didn't arrive too soon allowed you to grow into the person who could appreciate it when it finally did. One day, you'll see how the waiting turned into wisdom. You'll thank Allah for not letting you rush into relationships, opportunities, or seasons that weren't meant for your growth. You'll understand that His delay wasn't about punishment, it was about protection from premature arrival. Allah's plan is not to make you wait endlessly, but to give you peace that lasts eternally. What He withholds now, He returns in better form. What He delays, He beautifies. Every not yet from Him carries the echo of wait, I'm preparing something greater. The believer's heart learns to rest in that truth. Waiting humbles you. It strips away arrogance and teaches you the art of surrender. You stop demanding and start trusting. You stop racing and start resting. And slowly, you realize that what you thought you needed immediately was never meant to be instant. It was meant to be times impactful. When the blessing finally comes, it won't just fill your hands, it will fill your heart with awe. Because you'll remember the nights you cried, the days you doubted, and the moments you nearly gave up. And then, suddenly, it all makes sense. Allah was never late. He was simply waiting for the perfect alignment between your heart and His wisdom. You'll see that what didn't come early was meant to protect your peace, your faith, and your purpose. The delay built patience, the stillness built strength. The silence taught you how to hear what truly matters. You learned that the journey was not about reaching what you wanted, it was about becoming who you needed to be. Every believer has a moment where they look back and whisper, now I see. You'll realize that if the prayer had been answered sooner, the blessing might have broken you. But now, it builds you. The same delay that once felt unbearable becomes the reason your heart finally understands surrender. So many of life's greatest gifts come disguised as waiting. The longer you trust, the more you'll witness how divine timing never fails. It always arrives clothed in wisdom, wrapped in mercy, and sealed with love. You may not see it now, but one day you'll thank Allah for every door that didn't open too soon. Because the truth is, what's meant for you doesn't just belong to you. It's shaped for you, and shaping takes time. The hands of Allah never rush, because perfection never hurries. Every moment you spent wondering when was a moment He was whispering, not yet, beloved, I'm still perfecting it for you. And when it finally arrives, it will not only make sense, it will make peace. You'll smile through tears and say Alhamdulillah, not just for the blessing, but for the waiting that made it beautiful. You'll know then, with a full heart and quiet certainty, that what didn't arrive too soon was never late, it was love, arriving right on time. There comes a moment, after all the waiting and wondering, when your heart finally understands every delay had meaning. You realize that Allah was never silent. He was speaking through time. Every pause, every detour, every unanswered prayer was not to break you, but to build you. What you once called waiting was actually Allah's way of preparing your path, polishing your faith, and shaping your soul to see beyond what eyes can see. The truth is, nothing you've lost was meant to stay, and nothing you've prayed for will miss you if it's written for you. The story was never about the arrival. It was about the transformation that happened on the way. The version of you who once begged for answers has now learned to find peace in the unknown. That is divine growth, the kind that turns longing into light and waiting into worship. So when you find yourself in the middle of delay again, remember this: Allah is not making you wait to test your patience, but to strengthen your heart. He's not withholding your blessing, He's aligning it. Every unanswered moment is a silent act of mercy, every slow chapter a page of divine wisdom unfolding. Trust that one day you'll look back and smile, realizing that what didn't arrive too soon came exactly when your soul was ready to hold it. And in that realization, your waiting will turn into gratitude, your tears into prayers of peace, and your silence into remembrance. Because you'll finally understand Allah's timing was never late. It was love, teaching you how to trust before you receive, how to surrender before you see, and how to thank Him not only for what came, but for everything that didn't come too soon.